In this video, we're going to actually be following up from our last video in which we learned how to create patterns in Adobe Photoshop, and we're going to be seeing how we can draw patterns using the pattern stamp tool. So yes, welcome back to another My Design class tutorial on Adobe Photoshop. Like I said, this is a follow-up of a previous video in which we learned how to create patterns. Now the content that we covered in that video is actually very essential to how we're going to be able to draw patterns today. So if you haven't created a pattern in Adobe Photoshop already, don't worry, there are some presets that you can use for Photoshop themselves. But if you want to be able to use your own patterns, then do make sure you check out the previous video. I'll make sure I leave a link in the description if you want to go and check that out. And then do come back to this video so you can learn how you can actually draw those patterns out. So let's dive right in and see how we can actually go ahead and draw a pattern. So what I'm going to do to start off with is just quickly create a new layer at the bottom right hand corner here of the layers panel. So as you can see, we've created a new layer. And just to stay nice and organized, I'll quickly rename that as well, just so I know what that layer is in the future. And then all we have to do now is go to the left-hand toolbar to where the clone stamp tool is. So if you don't know what the clone stamp tool is, it basically allows you to duplicate different areas of an image. And the pattern stamp tool is essentially very similar to the clone stamp tool. So all we have to do is hold on that and then move one option down. So as you can see on the right-hand side here, the shortcut to the pattern stamp tool is S, but depending on which one you have selected, that is what Photoshop is actually going to bring you to. So just releasing it on the pattern stamp tool, as you can see, what we get is a brush. So hopefully we're quite familiar with brushes now and how they work. But essentially what we're going to be able to do is draw out this pattern. So all we have to do is go to the top here in order to change the parameters of our brush. So just like any other brush, we can choose what brush we want to use, the size, the hardness of the brush, etc., the blending mode, and also the opacity and flow. But the most important of the pattern stamp tool is of course the pattern that we're using. So as you can see in the small icon, yours will be slightly different with a different image. But if you just press on this, as you can see, it brings up this new window in which you can actually select the pattern that you want to use. So like I said, Photoshop comes with some defaults. So you'll probably see these trees, grass, and water folders in your version. So as you can see, you can open this up and actually select one of the patterns from this. I've actually gone ahead and created a pattern already, and that's this last one here. So I'm just going to select that. And once you've selected that, that's all you've got to do. And then all we have to do is just collapse this window. And now all we have to do is, just like the clone stamp tool, we don't actually have to make a selection of where we're going to draw our pattern out first. If I just left mouse click and hold and drag, as you can see, we can now draw out our pattern. So I can just draw it into any shape I want. It's just like any other brush. And the great thing is the layer is not a special layer. It's just a rasterized layer. So that's a great thing because obviously it applies to any kind of layer that you'd also use a normal brush with. And of course, just like any other brush, like I said at the top where you can change the parameters, I can obviously change the hardness and size of the brush and then obviously go ahead and draw out the pattern in that form. And just like with any other rasterized layer, you can obviously use the eraser tool, for which the shortcut is E, if you want to go ahead and actually delete part of your image. And another great thing is if I quickly press S to go back to the pattern stamp tool and actually continue, it will remember where the pattern is positioned. So it actually goes ahead and adds to the pattern that we already have. It's not like it starts all over again and the patterns aren't in the correct position. So that essentially was how you can draw patterns using the pattern stamp tool in Adobe Photoshop. Now, if you did miss the previous video in which we actually learned how to create the pattern itself, then do check out the video in the top right-hand corner of the end screen. And also do remember to leave a like on the video if you enjoyed the content, and also to subscribe to the channel to make sure you never miss a new Photoshop tutorial.